When my fiancée and I were about to get married, she feigned a grave illness and arranged a ritualistic marriage with her assistant to ward off misfortune. After I caught her and her assistant plotting their premarital debauchery, I turned around and impulsively married Veronica Sterling, a widow who was rumored to have caused the deaths of 38 former husbands. When I went back to my fiancé's house to pack my things, she and her assistant burned me with cigarette butts, tied me up, and tortured me. They even tore up my mother's portrait of his deceased mother, and dug up her grave. Veronica Sterling drove her car into my assistant, who was trying to run me over, saving me. Later, my fiancée found out she was pregnant with the assistant's child, but when she begged for my forgiveness, I refused. Ultimately, she went to prison for cutting off her assistant's legs, and Veronica Sterling drove her company into bankruptcy, so she would spend the rest of her life in prison. Veronica Sterling thought she had misheard. She pulled the phone away, cupped her ear, then put it back to listen. Ethan Vance, that's not a funny joke. You know I love you. You'll break my heart playing games like this. Veronica Sterling, I'm not playing with you. I'm serious. Get your ID, marriage papers, and come to the registrar's office. Before the staff leaves for the day, let's hurry and get our marriage certificate. An hour later, a Porsche screeched to a halt in front of the registrar's office. Veronica Sterling got out of the car, drenched in sweat. Ethan Vance, are you really doing this? You know I've supposedly caused the deaths of 38 former husbands. Aren't you afraid I'll curse you to death too? Hearing this, I chuckled confidently. Don't worry, I'm too stubborn to die. Death itself wouldn't dare claim me. Veronica Sterling quickly took my hand. Then let's go. Do you know I gave up a multi-billion-dollar investment meeting just to rush to the registrar's office? If we don't get the marriage certificate, I'll be losing a fortune. A wave of guilt washed over me. My affairs were always her top priority. After we got the certificate, Veronica Sterling snatched both copies, clutching them to her chest as if they were precious treasures. Just then, her phone rang. Miss Sterling, Blake Thorne killed an ordinary girl last night, and then burned down her house as a warning. Do you want to choose? Like hell I will. Find someone to castrate him, and then send him in. I'm married now, I have my husband. My husband, I'm going back to my meeting now. I'll come pick you up once I've tidied up the mansion. Just then, Serena Hayes called me. Ethan Vance, where did you run off to? I don't care where you are. When you come back later, bring a box of condoms. The fortune teller said the ritual required a genuine union, not a sham. You don't want anything to happen to me, do you? My heart felt like it was being pierced by needles at that moment, hurting so much that tears welled up in my eyes. I tilted my head back to hold them in. I didn't want passersby to see my pathetic state. I bought dozens of boxes of different flavored condoms and went home. As soon as I walked in, the floor was littered with shredded wedding dresses, and what had been my custom-tailored designer groom's suit. I looked at them for a long time. Even though I had prepared myself, it still hurt deeply. We had known each other for 7 years, loved each other for 7 years. I thought we would be different, that we could break through the 7-year itch. But I never imagined we couldn't escape the temptations of the outside world. All sorts of sordid sounds reached my ears. The door was half open. Through the crack in the door, I saw a side of Serena Hayes that was usually demure, now utterly unrestrained. Has Ethan come back? No need for condoms, the seer suggested it. You should go downstairs and buy some restorative drink, comforting broth, or something similar. Dylan is working so hard for me, I can't let him get run down. I took a deep breath, an endless bitterness filling my heart. If I hadn't overheard their conversation, would I, unknowingly, have just obeyed? Excuse me. You can hire a nanny to be on call 24 hours a day to cater to your every whim. I won't be serving you anymore. To my surprise, Dylan Reed pulled away from Serena Hayes, looking incredibly wronged. Chapter 2. I'm sorry. Ethan. I know what I'm doing is acting as a third party. It's immoral and undignified, but I was worried about Miss Hayes' life. If I didn't perform a ritualistic marriage to ward off illness with her, Miss Hayes would die. Serena Hayes embraced him, comforting him with extreme felt terrible for him, was heartbroken for him. This isn't your fault. You're just doing a good deed, an act of charity, saving my life. Good boy, listen. This is your home too. After comforting Dylan Reed, Serena Hayes picked up her clothes, put them on, got out of bed, and walked out. Ethan Vance, what was that attitude? Dylan Reed was just helping me ward off misfortune. Why are you speaking to him, so sarcastic, passive-aggressive? Apologize to him, now. I looked at Serena Hayes' face, flushed red from having her good deed interrupted. No wonder her tone was so harsh. My heart plummeted to rock bottom. Serena Hayes, are you expecting me to just stand here watching you do that right before my eyes, and then expect me to clean up your mess? Forget it. There's no point in saying more. I'm already married. I just came back to let you know. What? You're married? Serena Hayes instinctively grabbed my wrist, her voice tinged with panic. But it didn't last long before she sneered. You're lying to me, aren't you? No. No. Then tell me, who is your spouse? It's Veronica Sterling. Silence hung for a few seconds, then Serena Hayes and Dylan Reed burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, Ethan Vance, you can't even lie convincingly. Who did you pick? Veronica Sterling. You mean that widow who supposedly cursed 38 of my husband to death? Everyone in the entire city knows her name. No one would send their son to his death, unless it was for money. But that widow is also ruthless. The moment my husband dies, she immediately seized all his assets. I ignored their mockery and coldly turned to go back to my room to pack my clothes. Seeing that I was about to leave, Serena Hayes blocked my way. You still haven't apologized to Dylan Reed. I hadn't said or done anything wrong, so I certainly wouldn't apologize. Dylan Reed saw us starting to argue, so he got out of bed and quickly played the good guy, trying to calm Serena Hayes. Serena, don't blame Ethan. It's all my fault. My presence certainly makes him uncomfortable. Why would I be embarrassed? We're legally married now. He should be the embarrassed one. Hearing this, an endless bitterness and pain welled up in my heart. I didn't know when my home became someone else's, and even the person sleeping next to me became a stranger. Seeing that I was just standing silently and not listening to her, Serena Hayes walked past me, into the living room, reaching out to grab my mother's portrait of his deceased mother, to threaten me. Ethan Vance, are you going to apologize or not? If you don't, I'll smash your mother's portrait of his deceased mother. I stared at Serena Hayes in utter shock. My mother had loved her dearly during her lifetime, yet at this moment, she was using her portrait of his deceased mother, to threaten me, all for another man. I clenched my fists tightly and had no choice but to apologize. But Serena Hayes was relentless. Kneel and kowtow 30 times. And go buy some supplements to make a restorative drink, comforting broth for Dylan Reed. Oh, and go clean the room now. Get rid of all that messy stuff quickly. A chill ran down my spine, as if I'd fallen into an ice abyss. For my mother's portrait of his deceased mother, I had to submit, because Serena Hayes had already taken the portrait of his deceased mother, to threaten me. Only then did she sit on Dylan Reed's lap, satisfied. All right, darling, let's continue. We can't go against what the fortune teller said, or something bad will happen to me. With my scalp bleeding, I endured their sounds from inside, and after completing the kowtows, I fled in humiliation. Chapter 3. When I returned after buying groceries, I found my mother's portrait of his deceased mother, torn to shreds and thrown in the trash can. Dylan Reed walked out arrogantly, a cigarette dangling from his mouth. He blew smoke in my face, and even burned my arm with the cigarette butt. Ethan Vance, you goddamn are incredibly tolerant. I don't believe you haven't realized Miss Hayes is lying. You don't even get angry, watching us fool around right in front of you. But what they didn't know was that the reason I didn't get angry, was because I no longer loved Serena Hayes. No love meant no emotions. But he absolutely should not have torn up my mother's portrait of his deceased mother. I looked up, my eyes bloodshot, glaring at Dylan Reed. Who tore up my mother's portrait of his deceased mother? TSK, I did. I even used half of it to wipe my butt. Miss Hayes allowed it. As soon as he finished speaking, I raised my hand and punched Dylan Reed in the face. I work out regularly, and Dylan Reed, that pretty boy, toy boy, kept man, was no match for me at all. His cries were heard by Serena Hayes, who had just returned. She rushed in, saw me pinning Dylan Reed down and hitting him, and casually picked up a vase and smashed it on my head. Ethan Vance, have I indulged you too much, making you forget your place? She kicked me down, helped Dylan Reed off the floor, and hugged him. When she saw the blood on his mouth, her face grew even darker. Serena, Ethan Vance himself tore up his mother's portrait of his deceased mother, and just wants to frame me, so you'll misunderstand me and kick me out. If I leave, something bad will happen to you. He doesn't care about your feelings. Look, he even tried to burn me to death with a cigarette butt. Hearing Dylan Reed slandering me, twisting the truth, my anger flared. But Serena Hayes wouldn't listen to me. Dylan Reed is so kind, always so cautious and humble around you. He's only here to save me. Can you really not stand him? And he even tried to burn him to death with a cigarette butt. She found a few people and had me tied to a chair. You all light these boxes of cigarettes and burn him with the butts. Let him experience what it feels like to be burned." With that, she strode away with Dylan Reed, claiming to check his minor injuries. I was tied to the chair, unable to move. The scorching cigarette butts burned into my skin, the pain making my eyes water. When I tried to struggle desperately, they stuffed my mouth with dirty rags, holding me down tightly, not even allowing me to make a sound of pain. After all the cigarette butts had been used, I collapsed weakly onto the chair. Blood from my forehead mingled with sweat, and I gazed despairingly at the sky outside the window, watching it slowly turn from white to black. All the beautiful memories I once shared with Serena Hayes kept replaying in my mind, slowly receding, burning to ashes. Finally, they turned to dust and vanished with the wind. When Serena Hayes returned with Dylan Reed, her face was full of mockery. "How was it? Did you get a taste of being burned by cigarette butts?" She walked over, untied the ropes around me, and then threw an apron at me. "Hurry up and make dinner. Dylan Reed is starving. Don't even think about refusing, because I have your mother's ashes, cremated remains. I think compared to the portrait of his deceased mother, you wouldn't dare play any more tricks, would you?" I sharply opened my eyes, glaring fiercely at Serena Hayes. Seeing my anxious and uneasy expression, she finally left, satisfied. "Serena Hayes, will you regret everything you've done today?" Serena Hayes' gaze flickered with panic, but she quickly convinced herself that she was not in the wrong. "But did you ever think about me? If I didn't find Dylan Reed a ritualistic marriage to ward off illness and lost my life, wouldn't you care?" She threw the question back at me. "Darling, let's have a little romantic splash. Ethan Vance, hurry up and run the bath. I'm ready to use it." As I cooked, I listened to the various suggestive sounds coming from the bathroom. This humiliation was 100 times worse than being killed. Chapter 4. The next day, Serena Hayes took Dylan Reed back to work. I also got up early and started packing. Since I was leaving, there was no need for my things to remain here. Midway through packing, I received a call from Dylan Reed. "Do you want your mother's ashes, cremated remains urn? Then come over. I've sent you the address." I quickly dropped what I was doing, and, without a moment's delay, left, following the address on my phone. Upon reaching the destination, Dylan Reed appeared, holding an urn. "You actually came. TSK. Ms. Hayes said last night that threatening you with your mother's ashes, cremated remains urn was just to scare you, but I wanted to make it real. Last night, I had someone go to your family home, kick over your mother's grave, and dig up her ashes, cremated remains." My heart seized. An unprecedented fury surged within me. I recognized that urn. My father had made it himself. Dylan Reed had truly sick and twisted, utterly derangedly dug up my mother's ashes, cremated remains. Without a second thought, I charged forward, instinctively reaching out to grab it back. Dylan Reed, however, refused to cooperate. He forced me to kneel and kowtow. I did, but he still wouldn't give it back. I knew he wouldn't return the urn to me, so I had no choice but to try and take it back. To my shock, Dylan Reed forcefully threw my mother's urn. Bang. No. My eyes bloodshot, I swung my fists and punched Dylan Reed several times. Just then, Serena Hayes appeared. She threw down her bag and rushed over, pulling at me. "Ethan Vance, let go." I didn't budge, with only one thought in my mind: beat Dylan Reed to death. Seeing that I wouldn't listen, Serena Hayes picked up a brick from the ground and smashed it on my head. A wave of dizziness washed over me. I loosened my grip and took a step back. Just then, a gust of wind blew. Ignoring the wound on my head, I lunged forward like a madman, using my body to shield the ashes, cremated remains on the ground. Blood mingled with tears, dripping onto the ashes, cremated remains. I quickly reached out to gather them. My fingernails were torn, but I felt no pain. "Ms. Hayes, you're finally here. Ethan Vance is terrifying. I invited him here just to return his mother's urn to him. I didn't want you two to have a conflict because of me, but then Ethan Vance tried to scheme against me again. He deliberately broke the urn and then claimed it wasn't real." Serena Hayes' gaze turned cold, and she roared at me, in a fit of rage, "Since you knew it was fake ashes, cremated remains, why did you still hit Dylan? He was just kindly bringing it back to you." I couldn't hear anything anymore, my hands trembling uncontrollably as I continued to gather the ashes, cremated remains from the ground. I never imagined they would be so sick and twisted, utterly deranged. Lying to me was one thing, but why did they have to play with my mother's ashes, cremated remains? Seeing that I remained unfazed, Serena Hayes let go of Dylan Reed and ordered the bodyguards who had followed her to grab me from the ground. "Let go of me." Serena Hayes, with a dark expression, kicked away the ashes, cremated remains I had just managed to gather. Serena Hayes, stop it. Those are my mother's ashes, cremated remains. She crouched down, her face still grim. Ashes, cremated remains, you say? She actually scooped up a handful, then had someone pry open my mouth. I struggled in sheer terror. But I couldn't break free from their restraint. Serena Hayes forced the ashes, cremated remains into my mouth. Dylan Reed walked over. His face was injured, as if his face had been scratched by fingernails. Miss Hayes, Ethan Vance disfigured me. He actually scratched my face with his nails. I think I should leave you. If I stay any longer, I'm afraid he'll kill me. Serena Hayes cupped his face, her expression filled with felt terrible for him, was heartbroken for him. That damned Ethan Vance, are you done with your meal of ashes? Look what you've done to Dylan Reed, disfiguring him. I lay on the ground, painfully trying to vomit out the ashes, cremated remains. I finally understood what heart-wrenching pain felt like. Don't keep playing dumb with me. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll really think I'm spoiling you, won't you? Tie him to that pole and then drive into his legs. I abruptly opened my eyes and glared at Serena Hayes. Serena Hayes, you'll all die a terrible death. The more she heard, the angrier she became, and she had me tied to a pole. She told Dylan Reed to drive, saying he should pay back what he owed me. I watched Dylan Reed in the car in despair. He was triumphantly making faces at me. The car started and sped towards me. I struggled with a heart twisted in agony. But just then, a purple Porsche sped forward and slammed into Dylan Reed's car. Veronica Sterling's eyes were bloodshot, her face filled with murderous intent as she stared at Dylan Reed. Serena Hayes instantly panicked. Chapter 5. A glimmer of hope ignited within me, as I looked at Veronica Sterling in the Porsche. A wave of boundless grievance washed over me. Dylan Reed's car was pushed to the side, but Veronica Sterling wasn't done with him. She floored the accelerator, and the tires screeched on the pavement. Dylan Reed was so scared he tried to unbuckle his seatbelt and get out of the car. Serena Hayes, even more terrified, her face drained of color, roared at Veronica Sterling in the Porsche. Veronica Sterling, how dare you? To her surprise, Veronica Sterling's face was filled with a wild frenzy, and she glanced at her with disdain. With a whoosh, the Porsche brutally slammed into Dylan Reed's car, totaling it, then flipping it over. Serena Hayes shrieked in terror, and Dylan Reed wailed like a banshee from inside the car. Serena Hayes quickly rushed over with her people to rescue him. Dizzy, Veronica Sterling got out of the car. When she saw me covered in injuries, she forgot her dizziness and ran towards me. She pulled out a knife and forcefully cut the ropes on me, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Damn it, I'm going to make them pay. As soon as the ropes were cut, I forgot about myself and stumbled towards my mother's ashes, cremated remains. Finally, I couldn't hold back my tears. I desperately reached out to gather the remaining ashes, cremated remains. Seeing my state, Veronica Sterling, without a word, knelt beside me, her eyes similarly red-rimmed, helping me gather the ashes, cremated remains. Serena Hayes looked up, glaring fiercely at me. When she saw the painful expression on my face, she instantly panicked. My pain wasn't feigned, it was genuine. Could that powder really have been ashes, cremated remains? Serena Hayes sneered and shook her head. She was just trying to scare me. The urn last night was something she bought on impulse just to frighten me. Dylan Reed's wailing drew her attention back, so she stopped looking at me and dragged the blood-soaked Dylan Reed away, rushing him to the hospital. After we had gathered my mother's ashes, cremated remains, Veronica Sterling didn't question if they were real. She took off her expensive suit jacket and used it to collect the ashes, cremated remains from my hands. I tried to speak, but my vision suddenly blurred and I passed out. Veronica Sterling was startled and quickly embraced me, rushing me to the hospital. When she saw my body covered in cigarette burns, her eyes welled up with tears. She reached out, her trembling hand gently touching my wounds, her movements so light, as if afraid to hurt me. No matter the cost, make sure all his injuries are healed. After Veronica Sterling gave her instructions to the doctor, I opened my tired eyes. Veronica Sterling immediately gripped my hand, crying out, "Ethan, don't be afraid. I'll protect you from now on. They won't dare to hurt you again." At that moment, I cried my heart out, tears of sorrow and grievance streaming down my face. If Veronica Sterling hadn't appeared in time, Dylan Reed might have broken my legs. Even if they had been broken, Serena Hayes wouldn't have done anything to him, and I would have had to endure the pain alone. Where are my mother's ashes, cremated remains? Are they safe? They're safe. Once you're discharged, we'll take our mom home and give her a proper burial. My husband, I'm sorry. I should have come for you sooner. Through Veronica Sterling's self-reproaching words, I learned that she had been busy decorating our new home, and preparing for the wedding these past 2 days. When she married her previous husbands, she never had a wedding. They simply got the certificate and then died shortly after. Many people said Veronica Sterling was cursed, born under a bad star, a jinx, bad luck charm, who specifically cursed her husbands to death. But only I knew her secret. The reason she married those men was that she saw how wicked they were, having harmed many innocent people and escaping legal consequences. Veronica Sterling, being wealthy and incredibly ruthless, married those men and, without even touching them, systematically destroyed them, enacting vengeance, an eye for an eye. After they died, she seized all their fortunes, either donating them to charity or returning them to the families who had been wronged. From then on, her reputation for cursing husbands to death became common knowledge. But Veronica Sterling remained unfazed, simply focusing on living her own life. Chapter 6. To take care of me. She didn't rest for days and nights, and the scars on my body had faded significantly. After being discharged, Veronica Sterling found a prime burial spot, serene resting place for my mother, and I buried her in the cemetery. I knelt before the grave, remorsefully confessing to my mother that my troubles had dragged her into disquiet, even in death. At the same time, Serena Hayes called me hundreds of times, but I didn't answer. She was so angry she wanted to smash her phone on the ground, but she couldn't bear to, afraid that if I suddenly called back, she wouldn't know. She sent many people to look for me, but it was all in vain, with no results. The more she thought, the more restless and uneasy she became. The image of Veronica Sterling running towards me kept flashing in her mind. Could Ethan Vance's words have been true? Impossible. Veronica Sterling was a jinx, bad luck charm, who specifically cursed her husbands to death. And Ethan Vance had no prior connection with her. Serena Hayes made up her mind. It was her fault to begin with. Why did she have to lie about a ritualistic marriage to ward off illness? Now look, it had made them both unhappy. Sigh. Anyway, I've had my fun. It's time to end this ritualistic marriage charade. Ethan will surely be happy when he finds out. Thinking this, the worry in Serena Hayes' eyes eased considerably. As for Dylan Reed, she would just give him some money and send him away. Serena Hayes turned and went to Dylan Reed's hospital room. His legs were in casts, and his left arm was fractured. Seeing her enter, Dylan Reed began to cry pitifully. "Ms. Hayes, are my legs broken? I almost lost my life helping you. Ethan Vance was the one who did wrong, not me, so why am I always the one who suffers?" Seeing Dylan Reed in such a state, Serena Hayes felt terrible for him. She had originally intended to tell him to end everything, but seeing his pitiful, helpless appearance, she couldn't bear to. But just then, several men walked in. "Dylan Reed, you haven't paid us the money you owe. Your phone has been unreachable. What? You had us help you dig up Simone's grave, and now you're trying to back out." When Dylan Reed saw the men, he flinched, but the pain made him cry out. Yet, he ignored the pain and quickly motioned for them to leave. "You guys go back first. It's not that I won't pay, it's just that I had an accident, and haven't had time to transfer the money yet." The men seemed satisfied after hearing this. As they were about to leave, Serena Hayes called out, "Wait, what did you just mean?" A bad premonition suddenly rose in Serena Hayes. Their conversation just now made her recall the image of me kneeling on the ground, gathering ashes, cremated remains. Dylan Reed tried to stop the men, but it was too late, as one of them had already spoken. "Mr. Gu paid us to go to the countryside and dig up a woman's grave and take out her ashes, cremated remains. It's immoral, but he tempted us with a large sum of money." Serena Hayes trembled violently, her inner turmoil intensifying. She clutched the man's collar. "What did you say?" "And the ashes, cremated remains." The man was scared by Serena Hayes' murderous glare and quickly confessed honestly. "Mr. Gu took them. He said that woman's son stole his honey, darling, my wife, and now he wants his revenge." As soon as he finished speaking, Serena Hayes forcefully pushed the man away, then turned back angrily, glaring at Dylan Reed. Chapter 7. They're telling the truth, aren't they? You actually dug up Ethan Vance's mother's grave, so that urn of powder was actually Ethan Vance's mother's ashes, cremated remains, wasn't it? By the end, Serena Hayes was shouting loudly. Her whole body was trembling, and her chest ached faintly. Clapping a hand to her heart, she almost collapsed to the floor. Serena Hayes' face was ashen, filled with disbelief. A sense of panic welled up inside her, as if she were about to lose something vital. Why did this happen? Why had it come to this fatal crisis? All she had wanted was to indulge herself before the wedding, so she told a lie about a ritualistic marriage to ward off illness. What had she done to Ethan Vance? She had engaged in intimate acts with Dylan Reed, with his initials and a significant date tattooed in a private place, right in front of Ethan Vance. Even worse, she had forced his mother's ashes, cremated remains into his mouth. Thud. Serena Hayes could no longer stand. Her legs went weak, and she collapsed to the floor. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. She had actually become an accomplice in harming Ethan Vance. Thinking this, she looked up, glaring fiercely at Dylan Reed, while the instigator only shivered uncontrollably. She rushed over and gripped his neck. Dylan Reed, why did you do this? And all those things before, were they also your false accusations against Ethan Vance? Were they? Serena Hayes suddenly went berserk, frightening the men behind her. She steadily tightened her grip, and Dylan Reed's face turned darker and darker. Because I love you. If you hadn't come to me, I wouldn't have fallen in love with you. You know what a jealous person can do. Serena Hayes suddenly released her grip, and agony filled her face. Dylan Reed's words weren't wrong. She had sought him out first. Now, the most important thing was to find me quickly. Thinking this, she suddenly felt grateful to Veronica Sterling. Thank goodness, she had arrived in time to save Ethan Vance, otherwise a huge mistake would have been made. Dylan Reed saw her about to leave and quickly reached out to stop her. Serena, don't go. You and Ethan Vance have already passed the 7-year itch. I believe you no longer love him, which is why you suddenly wanted to run away from the marriage. Follow your heart. Why don't you genuinely break up with him now? Slap. Shut up. What goes on between him and me is none of an outsider's business. Who do you think you are? You're not fit to take Ethan's place in my heart. To put it bluntly, you're just a pretty boy, toy boy, kept man for my pleasure. Dylan Reed looked as if he'd been struck by lightning, utterly devastated, staring at Serena Hayes. And she now looked at him with disgust. All the sweet affection from before was gone. It was all fake. You harmed Ethan, so there's no need for you to keep those legs. What? You want me to break my legs? Ha ha ha. Serena Hayes, you really are ruthless. When you needed me, you sweet-talked me, but when you don't, you just throw me away like trash. Let me tell you the truth. Ethan Vance knew all along that your so-called ritualistic marriage to ward off illness was fake. That day, he was standing at the dressing room door and heard our entire conversation. You bullied him, and you even helped me scatter his mother's ashes, cremated remains. Ethan Vance will never forgive you, even in death. Don't even think about getting back together like before. Ha ha ha. No one gets to have a good life. Serena Hayes' eyes were bloodshot, and she clenched her fists tightly, her rage boiling, and a chilling panic set in. She actually found a knife in her bag, and personally stabbed Dylan Reed in both legs. This scene terrified the men who had come for their money. They forgot about the money and ran for their lives. Dylan Reed's screams, a mix of terror and agony, echoed throughout the hospital room. After Serena Hayes emerged from the hospital room, covered in blood, she sped away, running dozens of red lights, along the way to Veronica Sterling's mansion. She believed I would be with Veronica Sterling. Chapter 8. Upon reaching Veronica Sterling's mansion, estate, Serena Hayes burst right in. Ethan Vance, I've come to take you home. Veronica Sterling was sitting on the sofa, sipping coffee, and remained completely unfazed when Serena Hayes barged in. Veronica Sterling, where's Ethan? Are you hiding him? Serena Hayes called my name several times, but I didn't appear, so she ran frantically to Veronica Sterling and screamed. Veronica Sterling splashed coffee on her face, then stood up and slapped her across the face. You have the audacity to come looking for Ethan Vance. Haven't you hurt him enough? You tortured him with scorching cigarette butts, and you even had your lover try to run over his legs. If I hadn't shown up in time, Ethan Vance would have been killed by you. My man, Veronica Sterling's man, was harmed like this by you. If I don't teach you a lesson, will you really think I'm a pushover? Veronica Sterling grabbed Serena's hair and dragged her to the spot beneath my mother's black and white photograph. Thud. Thud. Kowtow an apology to my mother-in-law. You tore up her photograph, portrait, of his deceased mother, destroyed her grave, and even her ashes, cremated remains. Kowtow 300 times. Serena Hayes didn't resist, as if her soul had been sucked out. Veronica Sterling forced her head to repeatedly hit the ground, until her scalp was broken and bleeding. Serena Hayes collapsed to the floor, her eyes brimming with tears, and asked Veronica Sterling, "Can you tell me where Ethan is now?" Veronica Sterling smiled coldly at her. "Telling you won't do any good, because Ethan Vance is now my husband. We've already registered our marriage." As soon as she finished speaking, Serena Hayes suddenly reached out and grabbed Veronica Sterling. "What did you say? Say it again." Veronica Sterling, with a cruel, cold smile, repeated it with deadly seriousness. "Ethan Vance is already my lawful husband." "No, that's impossible. You're lying to me." "She's not lying to you." I walked out at that opportune moment, holding 2 marriage certificates. The moment Serena Hayes saw me appear, tears blurred her vision. "Ethan, you finally came out to see me." Before she could get close, I quickly stepped back to Veronica Sterling's side and wrapped my arm around her waist. "Ms. Zhang, please show some respect. My wife is right here." "Ethan, stop messing around. I know you're mad at me. That's why you married this widow to spite me. Come back with me first, I'll make it up to you, properly." Serena Hayes still believed that I had married Veronica Sterling just to spite her. So, I opened the marriage certificate and flashed it in front of her. "Did you see it clearly?" After Serena Hayes finally saw the marriage certificate in my hand clearly, her face instantly went stark white. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at the marriage certificate. Then her body swayed violently, and she almost collapsed to the ground. "No, this can't be. You said you would marry me. Why would you marry that poisonous widow who supposedly cursed 38 of her my husband to death? Even if you're trying to spite me, you wouldn't go as far as marrying her. Are you insane? Do you have a death wish? Divorce her right now." Chapter 9. She rushed over and grabbed my hand, her whole body trembling. I coldly pried her hand away and pushed her aside without any emotion. "Who said I married Veronica Sterling to spite you? Who do you think you are?" After she broke my heart, I finally realized who truly loved me. I love Veronica Sterling, so I willingly married her. Just then, Serena Hayes suddenly started dry heaving, as a sign of morning sickness. From the looks of it, she seemed to be experiencing morning sickness. So, she was pregnant with Dylan Reed's child. I smirked coldly. "Congratulations, Ms. Hayes. The ritual worked, implying pregnancy, a new life. You're pregnant with Mr. Gus' child." Hearing my merciless sarcasm, Serena Hayes trembled, deeply struck. Past events replayed scene by scene in her mind. Dylan Reed had already told her that I knew all along her so-called grave illness, and arranged a ritualistic marriage to ward off illness was fake. Suddenly, she looked at me pitifully. "I was wrong, Ethan. I promise I'll never cheat again, and I'll never lie again. Can you please come back with me? Actually, I was more afraid that you'd lose your life. I'm too stubborn to die. Even with you and Dylan Reed torturing me like this, I'm still alive." Hearing my sarcastic, passive-aggressive tone again, Serena Hayes guiltily lowered her head, her eyes filled with regret. "Just leave. You're carrying another man's child, and you even have his initials and a significant date tattooed in a private place. I'm married now, which means we were never meant to be." Serena Hayes never imagined that all of this would be a chain of reactions, caused by her own desire to cheat. Just then, several police officers walked in through the door. "Ms. Zhang, you are involved in a murder case and a violation for running red lights. Please come with us." When the police officers handcuffed Serena Hayes' hands, she struggled continuously. "I'll walk by myself. Don't use those things on my hands." But the police officers paid no attention to her nonsense and escorted her out. "Ethan, wait for me to get out." I then learned that Serena Hayes had actually used a knife to cut off Dylan Reed's legs. This indeed involved a murder case. But what did it have to do with me? Their ultimate fate was their own karma, just deserts, retribution. However, Veronica Sterling had no intention of letting her go. She used her connections and methods to cause Serena Hayes' company's stock plummeted, nearing bankruptcy, virtually bankrupt. Serena Hayes collapsed helplessly to the floor after her assistant reported the company's actual situation to her in prison. The assistant also told her that I would soon hold a grand and lavish wedding with Veronica Sterling. As soon as this news broke, it became the talk of the town, made headlines across the city. Because Veronica Sterling had actually fallen in love. She had never held a wedding with her previous dozens of husbands, but this time she spent a fortune to marry herself off. People began to discuss and mock again, saying I truly wasn't afraid of death, daring to marry a woman known for cursing her my husband to death. But I paid no attention to their gossip. Every day, Veronica Sterling and I lived a happy and stable life. 3 years passed, and I haven't died. Gradually, no one dared to mock Veronica Sterling anymore.